It was supposed to be my birthday celebration. But that night, someone else's life changed forever. The camera pans over a decorated living room, fairy lights, cake, music, laughter. Everyone is smiling, except for one person. My mum. She's standing near the kitchen, adjusting trays of food, making sure everyone gets a plate before she even thinks about herself. Even on my birthday, she's serving others, not taking a break. She glances over at me, offers a soft, tired smile, and disappears back into the kitchen. That's what she always did, smile and hide everything else. As people came up to wish me a happy birthday, a single thought kept echoing in my mind. She never had a real birthday party for herself, all her life. Her joy was found in ours. Later that evening, after all the guests had left, the house fell quiet. I found her sitting alone by the window, the city lights reflecting in her eyes. The makeup was gone. The jewelry was put away. All that was left were tired eyes that held the weight of countless sacrifices. I quietly sat down beside her. "Amy," I asked softly, "why didn't you come and sit with us?" She smiled faintly, that same gentle, distant smile. "These things are for you, Beta. I'm happy just watching you happy." Her voice cracked just a little at the end, a tiny tremble she tried to hide by pretending to fix her dupatta, but I heard it, and that small, heartbreaking sound stayed with me all night. The next morning I went outside to see my birthday present to myself, the new Mercedes. Black, shiny, and powerful. The dream car I had worked years to afford. My friends kept calling, saying things like, "Bro, the first drive has to be legendary." But my heart wasn't in it. The excitement just wasn't there. Instead, a quiet whisper echoed in my soul. What if this car could make her smile for once, a real smile? The idea hit me like a bolt of lightning. In that instant, I knew exactly what I had to do. The car wasn't for me anymore, it was for her. I spent the rest of the day secretly planning the surprise. I got a big red cloth to cover the car, some flowers, and wrote a small note. No one knew what was about to happen, not even my dad. That night, after dinner, I gathered everyone outside. "Amy, come here," I said, trying to keep my voice steady and hide my excitement. She came out, looking confused. "Why is everyone recording?" she asked, laughing nervously. I smiled and said, "Close your eyes, Amy. Just trust me." She hesitated for a moment, then covered her eyes with her hands. I gently guided her forward. The cold night air was thick with anticipation. Everyone held their breath. The Mercedes stood under the red cloth, gleaming under the garden lights. I stopped right in front of it and whispered, "Okay, Amy, you can open your eyes now." The moment she opened them, she froze. Her smile vanished, replaced by pure, unadulterated disbelief. She looked at the car, then at me, her eyes wide, and then back at the car again. "Beta, what is this?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. I took a deep breath and smiled. "It's yours, Amy." She shook her head, tears instantly welling up in her eyes. "No, no, no, this is your car, your dream. You worked so hard for this." I took her hands in mine, their familiar warmth grounding me. "You worked harder," I said softly. "You sacrificed everything so I could stand here today. This car might have my name on the papers, but its heart belongs to you." Her tears started to fall freely then, not of sadness, but of a joy so deep it was overwhelming. She touched my face with trembling fingers, whispering, "You shouldn't have done this." "Beta," I laughed, my own eyes blurring with tears. "I should have done it a long, long time ago." Suddenly, the silence was broken by clapping and cheering. Our family and friends started shouting, "Best son ever." But in that beautiful chaos, I noticed something strange. My dad wasn't clapping. He stood a few feet away, perfectly still, his expression completely unreadable. While Mom hugged me tightly, crying into my shoulder, Dad quietly turned around and walked back inside the house. Nobody else noticed, but I did. For a split second my heart sank. I couldn't understand it. Was he angry? Was he jealous? Was he hurt that I had done this grand gesture? I tried to brush it off, telling myself maybe he just needed a moment alone. But when I walked inside a few minutes later, what I saw stopped me in my tracks. The living room was dark. Dad was sitting on the sofa, alone in the shadows, holding something small in his hands. It was the keychain that came with the car. Before I could say a word, he looked up at me. His eyes were filled with a mix of emotions. I couldn't decipher: sadness, guilt, and pride, all swirled together. "Did she like it?" he asked, his voice low and quiet. I nodded. "She loved it." He let out a long, slow breath, his eyes glistening in the dim light. Then he whispered almost to himself, "I once promised her the same car, years ago when we were young, but I could never afford it." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. The whole house seemed to hold its breath. Here we were, two men from two different generations, both trying to make the same woman happy. One who was too late, and one who was just in time. Before I could find the words to reply, he offered a sad smile. "You gave her the dream I couldn't," he said. "You have no idea how much that means to me." He stood up, walked over, and placed the car key back in my hand. He gently closed my fingers around it and whispered, "Keep it with her. It suits her better than it ever suited me." And with that, he turned and walked quietly toward his room, leaving me standing there in the dark. I stood there for a long time, my heart heavy yet incredibly full. I realized that what I thought was just a gift had unlocked a hidden chapter of love, regret, and unspoken sacrifice that had been buried for decades. It was a story I was never meant to know, and as I stood there holding the key, I had a strange feeling that this was just the beginning. I had no idea that my dad's real reaction was yet to come. It was past midnight when I walked toward my father. He was sitting in the dim living room, the glow from a single lamp falling on his face. In his hands was an old, faded brochure, the same Mercedes I had just gifted Mom. He didn't look up when I came in. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence felt heavy, full of unspoken words and years of history. Then, in a voice so quiet and trembling it almost broke my heart, he said, "You know, this was supposed to be my gift to her." My throat went dry. I couldn't find the words to respond. He ran a hand over the creased paper of the brochure, his touch gentle, almost reverent. He whispered, 25 years ago, she stood right next to me in a showroom, smiling like a child. She pointed at this exact model and said, "One day, we'll drive this car together." And I, full of foolish pride and youthful optimism, told her, "Next year I'll buy it for you." He let out a sad, hollow laugh, and his eyes filled with tears that he didn't try to hide. But that next year never came. Every single time I got close, life took something from me: or school fees, the unexpected hospital bills, your grandmother's medicines. It was always a choice between dreams and survival, and I always had to choose survival. I moved a little closer, wanting to say something, anything, to ease his pain, but he continued, his voice shaking with the weight of his memories. She never complained. Not once, she just accepted it. But every time we passed a car like this on the road, she'd look away, pretending she didn't care. And that silence hurt more than any words ever could. It was a constant reminder of my failure. He finally looked up at me, his eyes red and raw with emotion. "And tonight, you gave her what I couldn't. You did what I failed to do for a quarter of a century." I knelt beside his chair, my own eyes getting wet. "Abu," I said, using the name I called him as a child, "she doesn't care about the car. She only cares about you." He managed a faint, bittersweet smile, his voice breaking as he spoke. I know that, but a man never forgets the promises he couldn't keep." Outside, through the living room window, I could see Mom. She was still sitting in the new car, the interior light casting a soft glow on her face. She was smiling to herself, running her hands over the steering wheel like it was something sacred, something she had waited a lifetime to touch. I could see her reflection in the glass, so peaceful, glowing under the quiet streetlight. "Come outside," I said quietly. "Please." He hesitated for a long moment, lost in his thoughts. Then with a deep sigh he slowly stood up. We walked out together, father and son, stepping into the cool night air, toward the car that held both so much joy and so much history. When Mum saw him approaching, her eyes widened. She quickly wiped away a few tears of her own, a bright, beautiful smile spreading across her face. "You're still awake?" she asked, her voice light. He just nodded, walking closer until he was standing right by her door. For a moment they just looked at each other. No words were needed. It was as if years of love, regret, and forgiveness were passing silently between them in that single, shared glance. Then, he did something that surprised us both. He reached out, opened the passenger door, and said gently, "Move over. I'm driving you this time." Mom froze, her eyes wide with disbelief. Then, she smiled, the kind of pure, unadulterated smile I hadn't seen on her face in years. She slid over to the passenger seat, still looking at him as if he were a dream. He got behind the wheel, took a deep, steadying breath, and turned the key. The engine purred to life, a smooth, powerful hum in the stillness of the night. The headlights cut a bright path through the darkness as the car began to move slowly down our quiet street. They didn't say much on that drive, they just held hands, the city lights reflecting like stars in their eyes. I stood there at the gate, watching them go, my heart so full it felt like it might burst. In that moment, it wasn't about the expensive car anymore. It was about something so much bigger. It was about healing. It was about a love that had survived everything life had thrown at it. It was about closing a circle that had been left open for far too long. When they returned a little while later, Dad stepped out of the car and walked over to me. He had tears streaming down his face, and this time, he didn't bother to hide them. He placed a heavy hand on my shoulder, his grip firm, and said softly, "You didn't just give her a car, Beto. You gave me a chance to fix what I thought was broken forever." Mom came and stood beside him, leaning her head against his shoulder, her eyes shining with happiness. And I realized then that night, I hadn't just surprised my mother with a lavish gift. I had given both of my parents back something precious they had lost years ago. I had given them a moment they both deserved. Sometimes, the most powerful gifts we can give aren't wrapped in ribbons or fancy paper. They're wrapped in love, in forgiveness, and in the magic of second chances. And that night, under the soft glow of the streetlight, I watched my parents smile at each other like newlyweds, as if time itself had finally forgiven them both. Thank you for watching.